Hey, folks, it's Lindsey Hullison with SPS back in the building for another SPS Edge Show. I got my guy, Mr. Terry McCord Jr., always ready to roll. We got a great show. Looking forward to some great topics. And if you stick around to the very end, I think we'll have a very, very interesting topic talking about transfer portal. But without further ado, Terry, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. Holidays coming up, going to see family next weekend. So I'm really excited, but without, just feeling at ease. I mean, I'm lost for words, done with school and I'm off for a month. So more time to watch basketball and rest. So it's always good to be
Oh,
done.
man.
Take a deep breath and be done.
Yeah, you're living a good life, man. Off for a month, got sports ahead, knocked out your classes. Good job on pushing forward on your education, man. Well, we're going to get right into it, man, because we got a really packed show. We got to talk about the records being broken, man. Let's just start off with the man himself, young Steph Curry, breaking the three-point record. Ray Allen's three-point record that happened at Madison Square Garden. I don't know if his parents took more of the show, stole some of the show afterwards with who his mom was not sitting with and who his dad was taking pictures with. But, what does it mean for Steph Curry to break the all-time three-point record recently held by Ray Allen?
I mean, I think just really with his story, being someone who has been overlooked and, was told he was too small and told that he was just a shooter. He was one-dimensional. And, I mean, I think that this goes for all the underdogs, man, that never count yourselves out. And, even to just have that be done in the Mecca, man, have it in the Madison Square Garden. Curry has always played well there. He dropped like 54 bombs there, man, 54-point game there, triple doubles there. He's always had that game, and it was always a game I used to circle because I always heard the announcers, guys like Jalen Rose saying, "Oh, Curry's in MSG is going to be a big game for him." So what a way to just cap it off there. And I really found these stats about Curry. Not only does he have the most threes, he has the most in a single season with 402, the most in the playoffs right now, 470. The most in the finals, 121 threes in the final. Most people don't even reach the final. He has 121 three-pointers in the finals. Most in the finals game with 9 in a calendar month, which I think they're going off with the 31 days in a month. He has 96 threes in 22 games with 10 or more threes. So the dude is just best shooter of all time. And he's done it in way less games than Ray Allen did. Different generation. But, man, the dude has just changed the game, so inspirational. He's my MVP. Joker is right there as well. But Curry's my MVP, man. It was so great to see him celebrate, both parents being there. It wasn't necessary. For me, it wasn't them sitting together. That was the issue for me. It's just the fact that they were there, man, to still celebrate their kid, their investment, the one that they love so hard. And you can just tell they really care for their boys and their daughters.
Yeah, in this world where that the camera's going to be all over the place, and they know being seasoned, professional athlete people who are in that world, they know that the camera's going to find them. It's going to be a discussion, and it is what it is. But I also think that those images also, Terry, reflect how our society is. Okay, everybody know their business. They have some issues going on. It wasn't the perfect family that we try to make people out to have. Steph went to dapped up his dad, gave his dad love. Matter of fact, if you catch the right angle, when he actually when he made the shot, the setup was they probably like, well, where you want to sit? He said, well, I want to sit, under the first basket because I know he's gonna make these 2 3-pointers early on. So when he made the shot, boom, all he did was point to his dad who was sitting in the corner. So that was a great setup too. And then his mom got down and got to deal with that, too. So I think it's a good thing. Our guy Aaron Mays, our brother, says, "What's up, fellas?" He says Curry's three-point record will never be broken. And he also said Curry may have changed the game for better or for worse. We can just say that we've gone into this new era where it's more about finesse, and a lot of the things that Curry has done and been successful at haven't been met with the 80s era bad boy style of play. And that's just where we are right now. Now, going back to Aaron's other point, what do you think about the idea that anybody's going to break that record?
I think it's safe to say that no one's ever going to beat it. I was just talking to my Aunt Tasha about that. We were like, we don't think anyone's going to do it.
What's up, Tasha?
But I think someone may beat it because I never want to say never, but I don't think it will ever be done in this fashion. done in 789 games. I don't think that will ever be done. I think if someone's going to beat it, they're going to do it playing a lot more games than Curry has. And that will always kind of put Curry as the greatest shooter in that conversation where they compare stats like that, because that stat's insane. But I just think that the fact that, I think it may be beaten. I think it'd be really hard because Curry's not done. He's not slowing down anytime soon. But I just think it would never be done in the fashion and in the pace of how Curry was able to beat that record.
Yeah, shout out to your auntie right now, Latasha Prince. Says, hey, y'all, hey, we appreciate you pumping us up, showing us all the love, saying we the hottest thing out there. That has a lot to do with your support. We appreciate that. So with that, I mean, nobody's close on his trails. It just may be that. We may have witnessed the record that will go unbroken. With that, we can keep moving on. Let's talk about Deion flipping the scales, man. You know what? Before we even talk about Deion, I read that wrong. Let's talk about Zion breaking the scale. How about that? Big fella. It's reported that Zion Williams reached north of 300 pounds this offseason, and Pelican officials were struck by his look. If you want to see what somebody had, look at their neck. Some of my young guys who play as a fraternity, you can see pictures of them where they got that real, crisp neck, but then you see Zion over there looking thick, got a couple of rows. This is a joking meme. Says before etouffee, after etouffee. I mean, here's the thing. He's a big guy, no question about it. He was always unique in that regard. But the reality is that with that broken foot, man, he's the type of guy, it don't just drop off easy. And I feel sorry for him in the sense that people are going to kind of lambast him and say, oh, your job is to stay in shape. But, man, his job has just been to play. And for the sake of one of our guests who just said a comment, I want to shoot back really quick. Hoops Hype says Steph Curry legend has grown even more with that record. He is the most loved player in the NBA. Yeah, I won't disagree with anything that you have to say. It's hard for people to say anything bad about Steph Curry. And if they do, it's normally rooted in hate because he's a good dude all the way around. So we appreciate you, Hoops Hype. But, yeah, the situation with Zion, man, it's going to be easy for people to criticize him. But we have to think that what we're seeing now is a representation of the anomaly that he was to begin with. He's a big fella, thus busting out the shoes, being able to do what he has to do. So when it comes to the expectations of an NBA team, size and height, and and if you add something like an injury in there, it's just tough. He's sitting, so they're gonna tell a big fella to sit around and don't eat when he can't, at least go work it out. I think people should be more understanding and supportive of him. But I just think the reality is that, man, when you're making a lot of money, people don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it at all. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think with Zion, I think it's just more about the injury. I think something's going on. I think a lot of it is just adversity, and I can't speak, before high school, but from my understanding of his whole career right now, this is like the most adversity that he's ever kind of felt. I mean, for this long of a time, and a high school standout, went to Duke, played really well, #1 overall pick. One of the most unstoppable forces we've ever seen in college sports, college basketball. And now he's in, and he had a pretty good rookie year and coming in, and he gets that hype around him, and now he gets a little unhealthy, and now it's just that adversity, and everyone's talking about how big he's getting, talking about how he's a bust or he's never going to come back. Like, that stuff gets to you at that young of an age, and at any age, honestly. I mean, I think he's going through something. I think it's depression. I think it might be anxiety of whether he's going to live up to what he was said to be. And ultimately, it's his job. I mean, right now, the NBA, that's his. He's probably the breadwinner of I don't know if he's dating anybody, but he works for himself. In the NBA, I call it self-employed because your play is going to get you employed. And so, even though, they pay for you and the Pelicans, but I think the Pelicans will continue to be on them. Because, I mean, Zion was their investment, their #1 overall pick. So I think that it's just more than that. I think Zion just maybe needs to step away or maybe just kind of reevaluate things, maybe reevaluate his camp. And what Aaron said, I mean, take better care of your body. That to me is your whole camp. That's your trainer, your agent. Who needs to be telling me the right stuff? Maybe he needs to look for a mentor, somebody just to kind of tell him and kind of align him in the way that he needs to get, because it's not the fact that he's a heavy guy. You have to understand your body types. You got to understand how you are. Everyone's metabolism is different, whether you're in the NBA or not. whether you have to watch what you eat, because you're not like everybody else. Right? Like you got to realize that you're who you are, and if at your tip top shape, you're unstoppable, dude. No one can guard you. But it does require more maintenance and more you taking care of and watching what you're eating because you're so unique and different.
Yeah, man, great points indeed. Our guy Aaron May said he has to take better care of his body and his body composition. I agree, but I also want to stress, the challenge of dealing with first-year NBA transition, a challenge within itself. You add the injury that's going to stop him from his normal workout regimen. He's been micromanaged by the Pelicans since day one, with them holding him back in summer league and in the season. So you're right, they've made an investment. They're going to support him, but that's just the reality of kind of speaking to what a lot of people said, that they were concerned about Zion going into the NBA with that size. We may have enjoyed it, freaking nature anomaly, and I hate to say this is no disrespect to Zion, but almost a Harlem Globetrotter type opportunity with him. And I'm not trying to say this is a clown show on the low, but it's different, man. I mean, that NBA grind is different. It's a huge transition, so we'll have to watch that. But we're going to keep supporting Zion because we know that what we've seen from him in the media and how he portrays himself, he's a good young man from what we know, and he's want to support him with what's going on. But I think you do make some excellent points there when you talk about there may be more to it. And as Aaron says, this goes to show you that Charles Barkley was a freak of nature. Yeah, it's right. However, I don't think Charles had the injuries that Zion had early on, which can end up being a key part about how his career develops. I want to take a quick break and thank our sponsors, man. Got to spend time with my guy, Horatio Williams of the Horatio Williams Foundation this weekend, man. We were over at North Farmington High School doing up for the Horatio Williams Tip-Off Classic. Friday and Saturday was a great event. So I want to thank Horatio and the Horatio Williams Foundation. Also, Dick's Sporting Good. We appreciate their sponsorship and support. I love Dick's. I'll tell you all the time, my two favorite stores are Dick's and Staples. And lastly, Gilead Sciences. Got a chance to meet Tiffany West, who's government relations and working on promoting Black equity programming with Gilead. Great young lady, and appreciate her support as well. So back at it. We got a lot of comments here. My group said this is the weekly Imani-based update. I'm going to go ahead and knock this out as we transition. Weekly Imani-based update. The other day, they got a huge win of Bama and Memphis, and Imani Bates played 15 minutes, and you all might be closer to the Bates people, but I heard that he was only coached by his dad all the way up. And I heard that last year he wouldn't ride team bus with his teammates. Was Imani spoiled? Now, look, I cannot confirm those statements. I don't know. However, if that's the case, this is a huge transition like we were just talking about with Zion, him going from having to, look to someone else. Because I can tell you on many occasions when anything happens, good, bad, or indifferent, Imani looks to his dad, wherever he may be. And that just may be a natural reaction if you had your dad coach you all that time. So I know it's always something going on with Imani. On this platform, we're going to continue to lift him up and support him. But I just want to be able to get that out here. Next, I do want to talk about something I thought it was funny. I'm calling it cool. And just, we got to talk about it. I'm talking about, this is how it started. Further how it was going. We talk about KD versus Trey, man. It's like young man came in your camp, he idolized, you looked up to you, man. And now he out there. But I got to give Trey Young some props. Trey was holding his own, man. If I had the video, it would just show how Kevin admitted it. He said, yeah, I was getting up in his personal space. I was all over him. And finally, Trey was like, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on with all that, But I think it's so cool where, a young man can look up to someone and have a picture like this, referring to him being with Kevin, and now he's in the NBA. And that same dude is, I have to say, playfully, jokingly, lovingly, just giving him crap, just messing with him. Like, dog, like now you here. It's kind of like, you was at my camp or you was looking up to me and you probably said, I'm going to be in the NBA. Now you here, So I just thought that was cool all the way around, man. Just what's your take on the whole KD Trey back and forth?
No, this game, the Nets versus Hawks is always an interesting one because they both play so similar. It's always on mainstream TV, ESPN, TNT, because every game that they play is so intense. Like, players step up. I was going through the stats of like how each player plays when they play the team, and you just see down the board, everyone on Brooklyn playing well, everyone on the Hawks playing well. Like, DeAndre Hunter averaged 26 points a game this year against the Nets. So everyone's elevating their play. KD averages 31 against the Hawks. So everyone just elevates their game. Even last year, man, their games that went down to the wire. It got chippy. Everyone's kind of talking and getting into it. And ultimately, it's just Trey's personality. I mean, he's an underdog. Kevin Durant knows that. Kevin Durant's a guy who he wants to get in your head a little bit. And what I think the Nets do, they really try and make Trey facilitate. They try to get physical with them. They try to make him get other people going, which is why the Hawks play so well. And Trey averages 10 assists when he plays the Nets because the pace is going up and they're making Trey facilitate more than be the scorer. So I think Trey's answered the bell against the Nets. He's been fun to watch, even though his turnovers are up, but it's just that pace. I mean, I'm a guy that I'm not really looking at the turnovers. I'm looking at how you're reacting to the pace. Like, yeah, if your turnovers are there, but what else are you doing that can counteract the turnovers? So I love watching Trey. I love seeing that go back and forth, but it's just an old head move. It's just a veteran going at the young guy, pushing him around, seeing what he could do. And at the end of the day, they probably chopped it up after the game. It's just one of those where you get competitive. One guy tries to see, let me see if I can get under his skin really at this moment. Because it was a big-time moment at that whenever Trey and KD were going at it. So Trey didn't let him get in his head. He was just like, dude, chill out. So it was Trey's a guy that he's not a pushover. I mean, he's going to give it to you. So I love watching those two teams go back and forth, man. It seems like it's always playoff mode. No team wants to give in, and a lot of it just goes to like the play styles. I mean, everyone wants to play the same. They both the teams play the same, so it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think it's also Kevin Durant, paying homage to. This is a good comment for you right here, Terry. He said, "Like I used to do you." Yeah, and that's how I used to do it, Terry. Big Terry, that's good. That's good. Hey, what I was going to say, I think it's also, it is KD really paying homage to Trey Young. He like, this dude shoot like me. This my guy.
Yeah.
He's probably saying, probably next to Steph, this one the coldest shooter in the league. So with that, I'm going to take advantage of that and do it. I think it's awesome, man. I think that reflects NBA culture that people can't understand. Outsiders can look like, what's that all about? Like, no, man, I ain't nothing but love. I ain't nothing but love. So just say, hey, man, and then Trey, being a small guard, having to stand up for herself, and you saw that personality that went from, hey, I'm a nice guy, but dude, all right, enough. Like, and his body language was so telling because it was like, look, dude, I ain't trying to act gangster or nothing, but I'm a man. And you doing too much. I need you to stop. I'm getting irritated. He didn't pop off and none of that, but no, I thought it was awesome. And like Big Terry says, hey, like I used to do to you, son. You know how that go. We always got somebody.
It makes him better. It's going to make Trey better. And it's not the first time Trey has experienced that. When he was at Oklahoma in the Big 12, especially playing against West Virginia, with Javon Carter, they were full court pressing him. He got, being the best player in college, it was Trey's team when he was at Oklahoma. So he got any look possible that they could throw at him. And the NBA is going to be no different. I mean, they understand your skill, and it's big props to you, but it's not going to be an easy night. They're going to do whatever they can to make you have an off night.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Those are things that are great, and it's great when we can talk about the culture. But speaking of culture, man, let's talk about what the headlines. Candace Parker announced her marriage to her wife, and they are expecting. The other young lady, that's her daughter that she had with Sheldon Williams when they were married. Sheldon played for Duke, had a stint in the NBA. It's very newsworthy. I remember one of my good friends reached out to me several shows ago regarding an issue, the NBA and women and homosexuality and these type of things. And when I say that, at the time, I said I just don't really know whether the platform or whether even I myself was ready to have this discussion because it would have been framed in a way that could have been very negative. It could have been framed in a way, Terry, that could have been very negative speaking as it relates to people and the uniqueness of their sexual identity. Candace Parker has really leveraged all the things that society respects. She's won a national championship in the NBA. She's been successful. She's been a face that's out there, and she's leveraging that to say, look, this is who I am. I'm coming out. Threw me off. I had no idea. I went with the same, understanding, oh, she got married to Sheldon Williams, they had a baby, but it is what it is. But I think what it does is a number of things, and I'll go to you. It forces us to have a broader conversation. It for the sake of it mainstreams the concept and idea of women being with women and having children. And it's just, what can you do? It's news. I mean, we got to talk about it. Before I do go to you, Terry, there were some other comments that were made by some of our great followers who I really appreciate, those who come on the show. So let me try to get a few of those. Is that okay, Terry?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start. I saw Moni had dropped something. Shout out to Moni. This was going way back. She said, she kind of summarized it all. Said Candace Parker feels, hey, I'm the top face in the WNBA. I won a WNBA title. I'm on TV. I got shoe deals. She figured, hey, I could just be me now, and I love it. I think she's absolutely right. There were some more comments that were going to be made. I want to make sure I get them in order because people really wanted to make sure they got it out there. Shout out to Hoops Hype. Hoops Hype said, save this for the Candace Parker segment. She's been married for 2 years. People have known this, but she went public. I'm happy for her, but big questions. Are there? I'm not sure it says, but big question. It's a lot of gay women in the NBA. I think that's understood. I mean, to be able to say that, it's so many gay women in the WNBA compared to, what the situation for other professional sports may be. Hoops Hype also stated, it might be an uncomfortable question, but I think I will ask, do you think a gay player, it's gay NBA players a download player? That's what I was just saying without even seeing the question. And because it's the NBA, they won't come out. Might be some star player. I'm sure there's some people with some very unique sexual identity and sexual history. I mean, yeah, but he's absolutely right. Because it's the NBA, because of the way the branding goes, who knows? Society may be just a little bit more supportive and open. And then when you winning curtails everything. If you're considered a winner, it does that. Let me make sure I don't have any other comments regarding this, and I'll go to you, Terry. And I think that's what we have so far as it relates to Candace Parker. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I do think that she did wait. That was actually my question coming in, and I think Moni's right. Kind of just waiting to kind of get to a certain comfort level, because I mean, obviously, going through, her and Sheldon Williams, everybody, Sheldon Richardson, excuse me, everybody knew about that. Williams.
Well, she's attractive, so you see her, you're like, okay, who's she with?
Yeah.
Oh, she with him. So that burns into your memory.
And I kind of figured that, because just seeing that, and I think other hoop heads will really kind of do a deeper dive than what they see, and there were rumors about it coming to and obviously they were true as we're seeing her come public. But at the end of the day, it's her life, man, and it's something where she's comfortable now with, and it takes some growing, because she was in a marriage, she has her daughter. Her and Sheldon were doing the long distance with him playing overseas, and they were trying to manage and do the co-parenting, and things get tough, man. I mean, athletes have feelings too. She probably had to get over that trauma of having a divorce and having to take her daughter with her and really help teach her what it means to be a woman, and to keep going through that and still play at a high level. That's tough. And then to introduce dating life, having her wife now and really introducing her and having her be with her daughter and really have that so privately. I think that was the smart thing to do, because you weren't about the family. You weren't about the whole. But now that you bring it up to the surface level, everyone's like, you have to worry about other opinions. And I think it was really smart that she kept it with her family and her unit and allowed them to go through that healing and that trauma and that recovery. And it just allowed her to really grow. And she's balling. I mean, she just won a WNBA championship. She's on TNT when she can get on there, and she may be starting a podcast soon. You never know. She's just really glowing in her skin, and now this is just another step of just showing who she is. And I think it's perfect timing, and not even just because her achievements, her accolades. I just think that she's really becoming more comfortable with her voice, and she's always had such a great personality. But now we can really see her glowing, and it's been really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think, we can move this conversation beyond the discussion of WNBA player coming out as gay. I think it speaks to how success can get you support no matter what the issue. The perfect example is Colin Kaepernick. Had Colin Kaepernick not, been in the Super Bowl, played the way he played, and was,
Right.
a guy struggling to make the team somewhere, him taking a knee would be something we probably never even heard about. And
Yeah.
shout out to our brother Aaron Mays. Aaron says, I think that's why the NBA will never reach the height of the popularity of success. He says sponsors will not support as much as they do the NBA. I don't know. I think that's somebody somewhere over this holiday break, Aaron, is talking or texting or watching something with their colleagues at work. And they're looking at this big pot of money that they have that normally goes into their marketing budget. And they're saying, what if we kind of got behind Candace Parker or kind of got behind this LGBTQ movement and really put ourselves out there and really leverage what we're trying to do? I mean, that can cause a chain reaction, man. Like winning solves everything. I think that's a perfect example of what we're talking about. So, Aaron, we'll keep an eye on that. I want to make sure there are no more comments regarding Candace Parker. It'd be something to see, man. But it also just, again, says that the fact that she's been so successful allows us to be able to have this conversation, and it's not a blow up. And nobody wants to be on the wrong side of history with this. No one wants to be the one saying,
Right.
Candace Parker, she should lose her role, or TNT, or sponsor this, sponsor that. Please, she's going to be held up, I think, to be the queen of the WNBA. So we'll keep it going, man. We got our guy Bryce, our Heisman Trophy when I make the mistake.
Yeah, Bryce. Yeah.
Bryce Young. And we're looking forward to him making some headway. He was the first Alabama first Alabama quarterback. Get that right. First Alabama quarterback to win the Heisman Trophy. I think geographically speaking, we were all a little bit more locked into this Heisman race because if you watch any Michigan State football, you saw Kenneth Walker III and what he was doing. You saw who's our guy from Michigan that was
Aiden Hutchinson.
Aiden Hutchinson as well. Him coming in that space. But Alabama's gonna be Alabama, baby. And I guess if it ever came down to a discussion about who got more pull in football, for the long term, Alabama versus Michigan, you got to go with Alabama in this particular case. But people said that no matter what, they felt that Bryce was gonna walk away with it. What's your take on the take? Do you think they got it right? How about that?
I think they got it right. He was my Heisman winner after the Auburn game. That dude, that Bryce Young, he's just well beyond his years. He's I think my age. Graduated in 2020 from high school and redshirted his first year, so he experienced that championship. And one thing that I love about him is his humility, his willingness to go out and put his best effort and win and glorify God. And it's really inspiring, and it just really causes you to really think about how you can give your best effort yourself. And as ourselves, I'm talking to everybody. And for him, I think he won because he has so many Heisman moments. Like Auburn was my moment to see it. And then Georgia just really confirmed it. Georgia was just my check mark. Like, yep, he's winning the Heisman because the dude is just incredible. He's very instinctive. He's a really good decision maker. One thing I love is how he makes plays on his feet. When something is dead, he's always gonna find a way to get positive yards and get more. And I think Saban, because it's so interesting. So this is the first NIL quarterback Saban has ever coached.
Yeah.
And at a high level, Bryce Young's getting a ton of money right now. He's everyone is loving his smile. Everybody's loving him. And Saban, being the old school, I can guarantee you, Bryce Young is not your typical quarterback that Saban's used to coaching. Think about it. The first ever Alabama quarterback. Usually it's the skill players, your Mark Ingrams, your Julio Joneses, Derrick Henry. The skill players are really the ones that get the most shine and the most love. I mean, A.J. McCarron and those guys, sure, they got props, but they weren't the guys you see. Now we're seeing it transform where Alabama's getting the quarterbacks like Tua and Bryce Young, even Mac Jones a little bit, but it was still Najee Harris and Devontae Smith. But now it's the Bryce Young show and Jamison Williams. So it's really cool to see Young, shine and make all these plays. But I really want to give big props to Hutchinson. I mean, although he goes to Michigan, the dude puts on a clinic. I thought the Alabama linebacker really got snubbed, but I think Hutchinson was just such an impactful player that it was hard to keep a guy out of there no matter the prestige, I just think Hutchinson is just really a dominant guy and really opposes his will. But as far as votings go, I mean, Young got 2,311 points. He deserves all of it and some. I mean, the dude is just incredible. And I got to give props to my quarterback, C.J. Stroud. I mean, just giving Young props. I mean, him and Young are best friends, play youth ball with each other and high school ball that they competed against each other always. So it was really cool to have all those young, black quarterbacks experience this. Kenny Pickett, another good guy from Pitt, who MSU has to find ways to stop him in the Peach Bowl. So I think all candidates, definitely deserve to be there. I wish they could have 5 instead of 4 because I think Kenneth Walker would have been in there and make an exceptional year. How about we bounce back from COVID and add one more to slip in there for fun? But they weren't feeling that. So.
Do you hear some noise outside of your window right now? Do you hear anybody screaming? Because I got Aaron Mays screaming the Heisman process is a joke. Period. He's screaming right now.
Oh man.
He also said there's no way that Walker should have been snubbed going to New York. Well,
I agree.
Tell me if I'm wrong or not. His play against Purdue and his play against Ohio State, was the dismal play of those 2 games enough to eliminate him from going to New York?
I feel like if there was going to be a guy who Kenneth would be over, I think it'd be Pickett, because Pickett, like we said, last week, I believe, he had some losses that were just kind of weird. I mean, they lost to Western Michigan, they lost to Miami, so it was kind of weird seeing that. I mean, he also played really well in that ACC championship game, which I think helped Pickett, but I think Kenneth should be there. I feel like MSU. See, and you mentioned this, it's a whole campaign. I feel like MSU didn't have enough momentum coming in there.
Let's just call it, they don't have the juice yet. No disrespect to Alan Holler, the new AD, but him and those other folks picking up the phone just probably don't have that history of doing that push. And I want to make a correction to Aaron Mays' comment. He said he's still the best running back in the country, former best running back in the country. He's declared he's out of here. He's like, I'm not.
He's gone.
I'm out, and I think that chip on his shoulder is going to carry him. So he's going to forever have those 4 guys picture up in his locker, and if that's what it takes for you to carry yourself, so be it.
Nobody's better than Young, in my opinion. I think Young won it without a doubt. I didn't believe into the hype preseason. Alabama was struggling a little bit. That game against Florida had me kind of on edge about Young because people were still saying Bryce Young Heisman, and I can't. It's hard for me to really say an Alabama guy really proved himself because I'm not really a Bama dude. I'm a guy that likes to see them lose a little bit, but it's hard not to cheer for that guy. Young is just an incredible talent.
Yeah, Aaron also says MSU does not have the cachet or the brand. I totally agree with that, and that's not really a knock on MSU. I'm a big MSU fan, obviously. However, it's something to be said about having those deeper ties when it comes to these Heisman trophy campaigns and who you dealing with, who they're talking to, who they having this history with, and how it goes. And who knows, maybe the next person that comes through MSU that's getting it in like that, they may be closer to getting that opportunity. But at this point, that's not the case. Again, before we go on to the next, I want to make sure I got all the statements. We are getting a lot of different comments about a lot of different issues, and I'm fine with that. But I do want to stay on target with the things that we're going to focus on. So what I will do is we'll shout out to our next topic, which is talking about Coach Prime, flipping the number 1 prospect in the country right now. And the crazy part about this is that now everybody's saying, well, he was number 2. And I had to double check myself and look on some different, boards. Well, what? So the whole issue is now people looking sideways at the HBCU. And it's that whole Rosewood, Black Wall Street idea all over again, Terry, that when, brother make good and folks start supporting each other, there becomes a level of scrutiny that you get. So with that being said, what do you think is going to come of this whole issue regarding Deion Sanders getting Travis Hunter to come on board at JSU?
I was really excited about it because he's the first ESPN 300 player to sign to FCS school. And whether, it was really cool, the storyline, Deion flipping a guy from his school that he went to. So, but for me, I remember this, and it really hit home because it was like me and my mom were talking, and it was back in my playing days, and she was like, what if you played for HBCU? And I was like, oh man, that'd be really cool. I love the bands, it was really fun. But she was talking about a guy who she knew on campus, was really talking about it was his dream to see a top athlete commit and turn down PWIs to go to an HBCU.
Right.
And that was the first thought, because like it's here. Like we're in that stage now. And Deion really challenged a lot of people's perspectives, because his immediate reaction was, got him. Like we already know. Like we expect this. We expect greatness. We expect to win. And I think that's a level of just the mentality that everybody needs to have. We expect this. Like there's no way we don't expect to lose. We don't plan to lose. And I think his comment and what he said, he was like, why are we looking sideways? In that sense, he was like, why would our resources be less for him? Why are we thinking like that? And I think him saying that challenges the boosters, challenges the people that are fundraising for these programs, because it's like, oh, why are we feeling this? Are there problems that we're kind of covering up that we don't want to solve or invest our time into? Why are we looking sideways for him to go to HBCU? Why wouldn't they be good enough for him? And I think that's so key, because when you start asking these questions, and Deion's whole role, he's really opening the game now. Everyone, I think with Travis Hunter going to Jackson State, I think that allows other athletes to see like, oh man, this is something that's doable. And I know it crosses every one of their minds, because HBCUs are always going to be there. They're always going to contact you. And a lot of these players down there in the South, they're full of them. Like in your home state, there might be 3 or 4 of them that knocking on your door. Hey man, come check us out. And it allows that to be possible now. And I think it was always possible, but it takes a few Jedis to make it happen, because they understand that them being that guinea pig, and I don't even want to call them a guinea pig, I want to call them like, Jedis, because they're going in there and it's a tough environment. It's going to be tough. He's going to get a lot of scrutiny. They're going to be paying a close eye on him, because he's that guy that was that groundbreaker that was like, look, we're going to do this and we're going to see how it goes. And I believe in Coach Prime and his staff. And so it was really cool to see that, because it was something that will lead to more. And it all started for me when Mikey Williams made that comment about how he's considering HBCUs. It really kind of got this talk about, oh man, why wouldn't we go to HBCU? It's a school. Why are they not being funded well? And it started creating conversations that I think are really benefiting Coach Prime.
Yeah, shout out to my mom, Patricia England, stating Prime has influence and he can talk to the parents on a different level. Yeah, he can pull back, he can pull back the velvet rope. He can pull back the curtain and say, this is how this process works. This is what we experience. And I think the selling point he had to that young man, when he started listening, all the guys who went to these HBCUs and made history, Doug Williams and others, he said, you got a chance to do that. And I think that young man was in a great space. And, the proof is in the pudding. He can look and see what their numbers were. He said, look at what happened when we came down here. Nobody was expecting anything from us. And we brought $30 million down here. Then he's saying, I'm going to bring you in. It's going to be your show. You see where we're going with it. And you can't beat that. And I think the sad part about it is, man, for so long, African Americans have had to have been in the shadow of, the premier leader, the white head coach, the white, leader of the organization. And now when people like Deion Sanders, who has the background and experience, hell, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a Super Bowl champion. I mean, what else there to it? He's showing you how I can do it, and here we go. We get it done, man. So I think that's an excellent thing. The hate's gonna be funny, because the hate gonna come real sideways. They talk about Dabo Swinney. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say too. I mean, just to go with your point, like hearing those HBCU teams, if you check it out, man, on Sunday night, when you hear those players say their schools, you're not hearing the schools you see on TV. You're like, where is that at? Where is this at? Where is that? Because the NFL has such and it has a great reputation of finding talent. It does not matter. It doesn't matter where you come from in that sense, but it does help, and it does help you get in the first round and all that. But at the same time, the NFL coaches like Belichick, like Andy Reid, If you can play, the NFL will have a spot for you, whether it's on the practice squad for a little bit, or if they sneak you in and all of a sudden you start and you're making noise. Like Antonio Brown, a guy that went to Central Michigan, balled out, got drafted, and is known as probably, I would say, maybe one of the top 10 receivers we've ever seen. Sure. It doesn't matter where you come from. They're going to come find you. And for Travis Hunter, it's going to be at Jackson State. If you're a great talent, you go to the combine, you rock out, they see your tape. They look for key stuff that they can apply to their scheme. It doesn't matter if you're winning sometimes. It doesn't matter. It's like if we see stuff and we see little twitches, we like how you move your hips, we love how you attack gaps, we're going to put you in our scheme. We're going to draft you second, third round, maybe even first. Or undrafted. We're going to put you in our scheme, and we're going to make you good, and you're going to make some money if you're that talented.
I appreciate it. Shout out to our brother Rod Wilson. Rod said, what's the difference does it make? Number 1, number 2, and number 10. This is a big for the HBCU school. Kids will bring, other recruits, not only the JSU, but other HBCUs and bring the scouts. I totally agree with Rod's point. The reason why I stress the number 1 part, because it's a slight when they say, oh, yeah, he got the number 2 player in the country, but not the number 1, not the best. So it's still that subtle slight. But also what I was going to say to some of your earlier points Terry, is that him going to Jackson State, you switch the direction of where the resources have to go now. Now all these companies, all these media outlets, all these people, they're like, we got to go down here. So Deion is, knowing that, that's going to bring the type of resources, bring the opportunity, and with that, you got to bring it to that. Shout out to Big Terry. Terry says, why wouldn't the top QB not want to be coached by the GOAT? Exactly. And see, what's happening is Deion has proved in a short amount of time that black don't mean bad, that white water ain't wetter. And to your point about everybody want to go to these PWIs, is now I was calling these guys that you can't just sit back on your laurels and say, yeah, we're going to get the top player because we are Florida State. We are Alabama. We are, Clemson. Now it's like Deion out here hustling for the top players. And nobody can look their nose down at them. Also, Aaron said that he agreed with Terry Jr. A player could be in Nova Scotia, Canada, and scouts will find. Yeah, shout out to my guy Carl Brooks from Lansing Section. He over at Ball State balling out. He done put on some weight. He bringing the funk. They beat Minnesota. He was very active in that game. I'm sure he's gonna get that call and get to meet the commissioner as well. Shout out to Rod again. Said Doug Gottlieb was talking ish too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's gonna be something to watch, man. Something indeed. Let's do this, Terry. Let's take a quick break, and then again, I want to give number love to our sponsors and what's going on, and we can talk a little bit more about the NFL update and the last topic of the evening, the transfer portal. So again, shout out to my guy Horatio Williams and the Horatio Williams Foundation. I was just with him this past weekend over at North Farmington High School. It was a great experience. Had some of the top teams in the region coming out to get it in. That was great. We're going to be doing something again on the 27th and 29th of December as well. I'll give you more information about that in a second. Also, I want to thank the sponsors who actually came in. We had Dix in the building, as well as Gilead Sciences. Shout out to Tiffany West. I represented Gilead Sciences. She came all the way here from D.C. to check out what we had going on and supported the effort and what's happening. So, Terry, this is when, shout out to Orlando, who couldn't be with us. Orlando Watkins couldn't be with us right now. Got some things he's taking care of. We're supporting him. But this is when we both step back, man. We're going to do this NFL update, brother. We're going to step back and let you kind of just do your thing and give us that NFL update. Look at that shield looking good, just sitting right there for you. All right there for you. What you got? Give us that NFL update and what's popping right now, Terry.
Right now, COVID is hitting really hard in the NFL. Tons of players are out, and the Browns is a big I would say is a team that has been affected by COVID tremendously. And it's so bad that their game against the Raiders almost got canceled. And it was one of those things where we're seeing COVID hit again and again and again. And I think now people are starting to get too loose, or there's new variants out, and everyone's starting to realize it's all over, but it's still here. And it's just, and we're seeing that in the NBA too. I mean, we're seeing these protocols, and I think I like how they're playing it safe too, because you don't even have to test positive, but if you're contact tracing, they see that you've been around someone that tested positive, they want you to quarantine too, which is safe. I like that because you can't really tell the symptoms nowadays. But if you do test negative, in 24 hours twice and you're vaccinated, you'll be able to get off the list and off protocol and back into play. So that may be some good news for a lot of fantasy team owners and coaches and GMs as they prep for this week's games, because they're so important, because Patriots are hitting their stride. The Bills are sliding back. I mean, everyone's starting to figure out that you need to run the ball. I think the Bills are figuring that out. You cannot just throw the ball. You got to keep them honest. They should have learned from the Steelers last year, where Big Ben was throwing 50 times a game. I mean, you can't do that and win. The AFC North is getting really spicy because the Ravens are a game ahead, like the Browns right now, and they're 1-3.
It's getting spicy, Terry.
It's getting spicy. The Ravens are a game ahead right now, and they're 1-3 in their division, which means they're 1-3 against the Bengals, Browns, Steelers. It blows me, because it's like it's so competitive, but it also shows you that those out of division games are very important as well. And so we're seeing teams like the Titans hitting their stride, Chiefs hitting their stride. The Chiefs, man, everyone's giving them so much smack and talking crazy about the Chiefs. But I'm like, don't let them figure this out. Get your wins now while they're struggling. They got a big game tonight.
He's a vet, and he's gonna figure it out. Right.
And they got a big game tonight against the Chargers, who's a game behind the Chiefs right now. That's Thursday Night Football for you. But teams like the Cowboys, proving they're the kings of the AFC of the NFC North, NFC East, beating the Washington Football Team. Rodgers showing that he owns the NFC North. The Packers are hitting their stride as well. Rodgers seems like he's having fun up there in Green Bay. Not sure what next season will look like, but right now it's all smiles because they're winning. So I call Brady and the Brady bunch down there with the Buccaneers. All those old guys, those teams grouping up together to win another Super Bowl. They're not my Super Bowl favorite, but I do like what they're doing down there. They're sticking to it, bread and butter, running the football and really playing physical defense. That's the Buccaneers' bread and butter right there. We saw it in the Super Bowl last year. But last but not least, man, that Monday Night Football game was incredible. The Rams versus Cardinals, one of my favorite games. There have been a ton of games prime time that are must-see football. And the Rams, even though they have a ton of people out with COVID protocol right now, Odell looked really good. He's out in protocol. I love Jordan Fuller in the backhand. Jalen Ramsey's out. A ton of names that you hear on that list from the Rams that people need to keep an eye on, because we're not sure how they'll be out. We don't know who's vaccinated or not. So I think that's something to keep an eye on. But they're proving to the Cardinals, that they're one game behind the Cardinals. It ain't over till it's over. We still got games left. Everyone's saying, oh, man, the Cardinals are really moving. They're really showing why they're going to win. But they're one game ahead of the Rams. It only takes so many games to prove to me that you're that division leader that's going to take over. But you just didn't see that separation no matter what. Like the Cardinals sliding back, had some injuries early on in the year, but I think the Rams are just proving that they're a solid team. They got Von Miller, another veteran on their team. Odell getting shipped over there, that they're making that push. They're making those investments. And I knew that it was a win now situation for them because they traded their future to get Stafford in. So they're really showing that, hey, it's win now over here in LA for the Rams. So I think that division will be very interesting as time winds down. And we see in December and January, this is where you want to play your best ball. And I'm not seeing that from the Bills. I'm not seeing that from the Vikings. A lot of teams that were kind of in the playoff mix, but they just sliding out. And it's the game. COVID's involved too, but it's the game.
Yeah, it's the game. COVID's involved. And, I'm happy to hear that those are great games going on. We talked about a year ago, we couldn't even see that with what was happening. Got fans back in the stands, and we are dealing with these new variants, and COVID plays a factor. But that means you got to take advantage of what you need to take advantage of when you can, because you just don't know. We saw seasons stop, we saw seasons end, and I think that's a reminder. And speaking of that, that was a great take you had. I talked about being at the Horatio Williams Foundation Tip-Off Classic this past weekend, but coming up on the 27th, 28th, and 29th, SPS is going to be in the building on that Monday and that Wednesday at North Farmington. It's going to be a holiday extravaganza. There's going to be a lot of hoops going on, prep hoops, that is. And it makes me bring up our final topic, man, which is talking about, is there really a need for a high school transfer portal? First of all, I want to shout out my guy, William McCoy. He's the assistant director of MHSA, very good friend, very hands-on in his role. If anyone is familiar with MHSA, he succeeded Nate Hampton, who was in the same role for several years before. His focus is not only basketball, but other sports as well. Really good guy. Me and him had a very candid exchange. He said he has no problem with letting his particular feelings be known about it. He said this is not the official stance of MHSA, but him having his voice. And we went back and forth. And what brought this up, Terry, is that over like the past week or so, there was an incident where on social media, and I'm not going to say who said what and did what, but it was just sad because it's talking about players attempting to transfer to other schools and some coaches calling MHSA or kind of calling in on these players to make that transfer situation more difficult. And what's been known is that some of these coaches that call have a history of doing it. It's like it's an open secret. Right. Everybody knows it happens, but at the end of the day, it impacts the player. So when I was going back and forth with Will in a very, healthy exchange, healthy intellectual exchange, he was like, he think the idea and the concept is ridiculous, and I'm just kind of putting his comments out there as far as what he said. He said it really shouldn't be about that. We're taking emphasis off education. So my rebuttal to his statement was, what about competitiveness and equity, giving everybody a chance? Because sometimes there's scenarios that come up and make it really difficult for a player to be where he needs to be. So his response was, there are systems in place to support that when there is an issue like that. But I even suggested, how about just the one and done? How about every high school player gets one transfer, no questions asked? I can just go and that's it. They have to be the strategic in how they use it. They got to keep that in mind, but that can stop those other coaches who want to drop a dime on players, put information out there on them, and do all these things. And I'm saying, well, everything that we've been doing in college, we've been doing in high school to a degree. So if you got a transfer portal in college now, why wouldn't you have a transfer portal in high school? So what do you think about that conversation all the way around, Terry?
I think it's a great idea, but I'm fearing that it won't get executed, which is why my hesitancy is like no, because my biggest fear, I just don't want high school to get like kind of like a free agency, and we kind of saw that like here in the Lansing area where people are really asking and trying to group up and play here, and which is all fair. I mean, if you want to make a team and it's legal, go ahead and do it. But I think we come into a situation where a lot of times people kind of want to be on the best team and don't even couldn't care less about the academics, but they just want to join that team. And as a proud believer that you got to have both, you got to have the books and being able to play well on the court. I'm not really a big fan of it, but I do think that the rules are a little bit absurd. I think that there do need to be some reform in the rules as far as like how long you have to wait. I was a big fan of the semester thing where you did have to wait a semester to play. And I'm not really a fan of you had to wait the whole year. And I think that's a lot because you're talking about a kid's whole year is taken away. So I'm not really a big fan of that, but I also don't want it to be like a free agency where they're going here, going there. But I do think it's something to think about and maybe revising the rules about it and maybe seeing if there are ways. But ultimately, I think that these prep schools and stuff like that, I just think that Michigan needs to increase more prep schools. I think that having more of those and having their own league, I think that'd be really interesting and cool in the Michigan area because I feel like having more prep schools, I think that solves a lot of the problems right here because you're not having to deal with school of choice and all of that. You just go to a prep school and you play against right there and education, however they want to do it at that prep school. But I feel like that solves a lot of problems if we're able to open up prep schools like the Ipsy Prep, even though that was more centered towards Imani. But I think that was a good idea because it allowed people who they wanted to go there, they wanted to be competitive, and they wanted to get ready for the next level. And I think a lot of times these players are thinking once thinking ahead to the next step. And I think prep schools and having more opportunities for prep schools allows players to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I want to jump to my guy Larry Johnson's comments. Is kind of, we can, develop that a little bit more. He said, when you get a chance, I've been to a few high school games in Lansing. What has happened to the local talent? Did you see the kid from Flint put on a show at Waverly last name Ellison? Yeah, he had 35 points. I heard about that. The reality is that, man, listen, I totally hear your point, though, when you talk about how things can be lost. But we're seeing this transition from the college game. I mean, 5 years ago, would we ever thought there would have been something called a transfer portal where college athletes can do that? I think that we kid ourselves sometimes when we try to act as if high school sports is not big business. It doesn't mean everybody's profiting from it, but guess who's profiting from high school sports? Collegiate programs. So there's value in it somewhere, because guess what? I don't care what Alabama got going on today. If they don't recruit from the high school tomorrow, it ain't going to be nothing. So that value is there. And I don't want things to be lost where you got this, wild, wild west with high school kids, man. But, is it really right that when a coach that's, jealous, envious, upset, mad, or hating can send some anonymous information or put out a campaign against a kid that hurts that kid, compared to the kid having the freedom saying, you know what, it don't even matter. This is a free and clear state. We got a transfer portal. I'm out. And, to Will's point, he talked about the importance of education, and education helped lift him out of poverty. I understand that. But a lot of these cases, sometimes these are middle-class parents. These are parents that got spread. You know what I'm saying? And they're not transferring schools from, one inner city high school to another. They're talking about, suburban schools, you know what I'm saying? Going out into the burbs, if you will, paying extra for taxes, if you will, living a certain lifestyle. So you still had to happen. So, I'll still hold out hope for the idea. I like what you said about, maybe some things can be changed. They can always be changing. And going back to Will McCoy's point, he said there are mechanisms in place to help those individuals that fall into this. But I'm just really trying to shock the public with the ideas that let's not act like we're not trying to treat high school sports like we treat it. Look at overtime. Look at Mikey Williams. Look at these kids that are signing large endorsement deals, already. And what does it matter if the kid signs a deal the day after his last high school game compared to him signing when he gets on campus? My point being that these are still prep players. These are still young guys, young men and women who are getting ready to get up in this system. And I think when people hear that they can empower themselves by having an ability to transfer as they want. Now, I understand the argument, and Will made this argument too. He made a very great argument. He said, look, man, as soon as a kid hits some adversity, Terry, he going to want to leave. As soon as the coach ain't giving some win, he going to want to leave. That's why I can argue, okay, do it if you want. You only get one.
Yeah.
And that's it. Because just as you had those scenarios, which happen time and time over, you got scenarios where somebody's getting jammed up, man, and they trying to get out of it. And I think the only other issue is Will talked about MHSA saying, hey, just make us aware of the process. And I am saying that as a public service announcement to everybody out there listening. If you have an issue talking about transferring schools, got an issue that's coming up, get in contact with MHSA. I think what people like to do, Terry, is they don't want to talk about nothing. They sit on information. And then the 11th hour, they try to make a push for something. No, Will is saying, reach out to us, give us the information, give us as much information as possible so we can make an educated decision. But I don't know if this concept will come up again, but I'm riding a wave, Terry, that things that we saw and never thought would happen are happening, man. Whether it's Steph breaking the record of Ray Allen, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's Deion, the number one recruit in the country, to go to HBCU, or a college transfer portal, or even me suggesting the idea of a high school transfer portal. But that's what we get when we have a great platform like this. I want to thank all our audience members. Thank all the great comments. I know we had a few comments that were a little bit beyond what we talk about, but I think it's important that if the comments can really focus on what we have to discuss tonight, it helps us keep with what we worked on, helps us stay on track, and I'll try to do the best I can. I'm going to go back to Nene really quick. She paid me a really nice compliment. She said, I watch your old interviews, and they're all good, but I love the ones with Derek Coleman. He seems to be so down to earth. Keep it up. I appreciate that, Nene. Yeah, and DC is a real good dude. What you see is what you get. She did add, Terry, Michigan State Hoops team, your quick thoughts. They're on a little win streak. Should we be excited like they are our top team in the Big Ten? Our horses, LOL. I think Michigan is better. And Terry said, I don't know. Here's the thing, man. What I learned from my season or two covering, Michigan State basketball in the Big Ten is that, right now we're one-third way through the season. And there ebbs and flows with the Big Ten, man. And it's a lot of talent. And I would say be careful not to be too excited as if they're about to run the table out the way at the door, but they're showing signs of promise. And but the Big Ten is not going to back down, man. Them guys kind of play every night. Terry, I saw you kind of cover your face a little bit. You kind of was holding back a little bit. Said that. What you think about that?
I agree with her all the way until the better than Michigan part. I think MSU today is better than Michigan in hoops. I just think they have a more I think when their offensive attack is a little bit more dynamic. I think they're bigs. I think MSU plays with the pace that can outplay Michigan. I just think Michigan has a lot of holes right now that they're trying to patch up because they missed a lot of guys that were key vocal points of their team. So, like I said, it's early. I mean, Michigan's glad they don't have to play Michigan State till later, and Michigan State's trying to figure their stuff out. So they're glad they don't have to play Michigan until later. So I think right now, Michigan State just has to keep playing and winning and beating the people ahead of them. And just keep taking care of business right here. And then after that Christmas break, Big Ten hoops is on and popping. So I just think Michigan State's a lot better right now than Michigan.
Yeah, I totally agree. Aaron goes back to our former topic. The MHSA needs to loosen the travel restrictions on where teams can play, makes for better competition. I will add there will be an update with MHSA. There has been an update in the travel restrictions, and I want to say it's along the lines of if you go out of state to one of the adjoining states that you're allowed to go to, and you're playing a team that's from another state, it used to be problematic, but now they're going to be able to allow those games. There's going to be more information. So there is, some steps being made to loosen some of the restrictions as it relates to that. But with that, man, all I want to say is it's great to be able to have this platform to talk about these things. I want to thank everybody who's checking in and chiming in with us. We had a couple weeks off. We changed up some dates, but that's how it goes. But you guys are making us a success. Terry, before we get out of here, any final comments you want to have on today's show or what we got before we go into this holiday break?
Just staying safe, man. A lot of these, although it's NFL players, and NBA players, we're seeing getting it, but those are just the players we see on TV. So it's really out here just staying safe and just keeping your loved ones in your thoughts and prayers, and have a good holiday. I mean, before we go into it next week, but it's going to be a lot of fun coming up with these Christmas games. That's definitely going to be on the table next week. Christmas games, Christmas football. It's going to be really interesting coming up these next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you get the final shout out from my mom. She said, shout out to Terry McCoy Jr. Terry's the man.
Appreciate
it. Love it. Well, with that, guys, I want to thank you guys for supporting SBS, the SBS Edge Show. I want to thank my great co-host, Mr. Terry McCoy Jr. I want to shout out everybody, and we'll be back at this same time next week. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.